Now, the Republican tax plan under President Trump is again under fire for not delivering what it promised to deliver. Now, this is according to a new analysis by the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service. Those tax cuts have done little, if nothing, to raise workers' wages, boost economic growth, or spur any sort of business investment. Now, let me just say, I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked, really. The analysis, according to the CRS, appeared to vindicate warnings from progressive critics, like me, that the GOP tax cuts were little more than a scam designed to put more money in the pockets of wealthy Americans. Well, of course it was. Again, we've said all along, this is all about making rich people and corporations richer. Now, in its 23-page report, the independent research arm found that while the Republican tax law has not done much for workers in the overall economy, it has sparked a wave of stock buybacks, which we reported on, which primarily benefit rich executives. So, of course, what happens is they buy back their own stock. That raises the stock value. And then, of course, these executives can basically cash out. And they leave with millions and millions of dollars. That, unfortunately, artificially inflates the value of the stock, which, of course, makes the company appear to be doing better than it actually is. In reality, the company is actually not making any more money than it was before, nor is it doing better than it was before. But nonetheless, that does not stop them from doing it because, unfortunately, it gains them a lot of short-term profit. Now, according to the CRS, quote, evidence does not indicate significant repurchases of shares, either from tax cuts or repatriated revenues, but relatively little was directed towards paying worker bonuses, which have been announced by some firms. And that's, of course, the big defense. Well, what are you talking about? They gave bonuses to a lot of these workers. Did they, though? Did they? I mean, again, some, yes, but those amounted to basically crumbs, as Pelosi pointed out. And again, that's not somebody I like to quote, but when she's right, she is actually correct. Those were crumbs, and that's a bit of a problem, right? And now, they did these bonuses, by the way. Not only is the report will mention for another reason, but they did it instead of raising wages. In fact, the report says this, quote, there's no indication of a surge of wages in 2018, either compared to history or relative to GDP growth. The Congressional Research Arm found that a conclusion that is consistent with the recent survey data, showing that Americans have not seen a paycheck boost from the Trump tax cuts. The CRS report also suggested that worker bonus announcements by major corporations immediately following the passage of the GOP tax bill in 2017 may have been little more than a public relations move. So, it turns out those bonuses didn't really mean anything, was less than 1% of their profit margin, was nothing more than PR? No, of course not. What are you talking about? Why would you say that? Because that's what it was. Everything was all about, hey, we just got a massive windfall, and here we are. We're going to go spend it basically in buying our own stock, which means us getting even richer. Well, we got to do something, or else we're going to take a lot of fire. I know. One-time bonus. Real quick. That should get them off our back. And I don't think it did. I don't think it did at all. But anyway, there's more. The CRS report, let's go for growth. According to the CRS analysis, they cast serious doubt on Trump's repeated claim that his tax cuts were, quote, rocket fuel for the U.S. economy. Definitely not rocket fuel. Now, in rocket fuel related news, the Trump administration has basically decided to allow more rocket fuel, yes, more, to be dumped into waterways, into drinking water. They, I believe, heightened the tolerance for that by about 3 times and said, hey, if you don't like it, we could do it even more. We could allow even more rocket fuel to get into the drinking water. Lovely. Now, on the whole, the CRS report said, the growth effects tend to show a relatively small, if any, first-year effect on the economy. Now, look, a lot of you, have been nodding along and saying, no kidding, of course. Well, then, if you have been, then you're already responding to what you've already seen and what we have been saying on this channel all along. There were two promises with the tax cuts, right? There was a fake promise that it's going to grow the economy, it's going to trickle down to you, etc. And then there was the real promise behind it, in which only the donors and anybody paying attention actually knew. Because this was sold as a measure that would help workers in the middle class. But in reality, as I said, that fake promise, or I should say the real promise, people already knew, especially the politicians and the corporate donors, that it was basically there to help them. So it's not really a failure from a certain point of view, because it was never meant really to help the middle class. It was always meant to help the rich, because it was by the rich, for the rich, as it was always intended to be. Again, most of you are not surprised, but MAGA guys, people who work in the factories, right? People who work in the mines, are you thrilled with your tax cut? Are you happy with your return? Now, look, some of you might say, actually, I am pretty happy with my return, or maybe some of you have seen a small tax cut. Well, good for you. Wonderful, right? Now, how about you? How about the ones who know that Amazon, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. He also, that company, paid no taxes this year. None. George Soros, you might not like him, right? And I don't think that he should have money in politics and be able to influence elections. He actually paid very little taxes because of this as well. Are you still happy about these tax cuts? Are you proud that the corporate rate is the lowest that it's ever been? Shouldn't be. You know why? Because it will never, ever trickle down on you. You've been had by another Republican tax cut scam. And while you continue to struggle through and will soon pay more for produce and goods at Walmart because of Trump's trade war, the wealthiest CEOs will be laughing at you because to them, you're just nothing more than another sucker. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.